Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Kyle Juice Michalski, Quentin Q. Crisco, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
Welcome back. We are here to talk about the Chicago Bears offensive line. We are going to run through the all 22 here from the game in London, not in Jacksonville, like I was about to say, in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. My name is Quentin Crisco. I'm joined by Mr. Ron Luce, Coach Ron Luce, maybe we'll call him today. And Ron, how are you doing this evening?
Q, I'm great. I am trying to convince myself right now that the light that everybody can see me with on tonight's live stream is the big bright Florida sun. Because it was colder than a you-know-what today in Chicago. It finally felt like fall, I think, for the first time. I'm chilly despite, I know, it looks stupid. I'm wearing a tank top. It's because I needed to rep my boys tonight while we do some film room. So I am just trying to soak in the rays, Q. And after this win, I am kind of soaking in the rays from a football standpoint, but not because of this one that I think we're going to lead off with. But how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I had Monday off work, so I got to get to the tape review stuff all done bright and early this week. Had it all done by Monday night, which was wonderful. A great, it's a weight on me every week until I get it out. Like usually Wednesday, it's just like I gotta go to work, then I gotta watch the tape, and then I gotta cut it up, and then I gotta tweet it out. And it's like, okay, I can breathe this week. But like you said, with this first one, might not be as sunny. We'll get to some good in here. We're going to start with some bad, and then we'll circle it back around to some of the good reps. But overall, it was a nice game from Tev. But when we're going through this first one here, and JT O'Sullivan highlighted this one on his film review.
QB film room, yeah.
The one thing you notice is who the hell is 94 and why is he unblocked?
Yeah. Yeah, initially you sent me this one and you're like, we're talking about this. And I'm like, okay, so I needed to watch it, right? I mean, that's just the key here. Everybody at home is going to be like, well, no shit that Tev missed it. Well, yeah, after you watch it once. This is once you see it for the first time, there's ways to break it down.
Well, and like, so I just want to preface that with someone who might not be as familiar with all the, I'm talking about myself here, with some of the rules, with different run assignments, different RPOs here. When I was watching through this, I was going, well, maybe it's duo and they left a man unblocked on the end and that's Braxton's guy. Maybe it's not an RPO. Maybe Swift has a pass block responsibility here. Like, so I had a few thoughts. It's like, maybe that happened or maybe Tev just biffed it because he seems pretty determined in what he's doing here. No confusion.
Yeah, so let me preface that too, Q, because I think you and I were giggling after our Sunday recap show of this game that we're talking about here with Mr. Sonny Verma. I highly encourage everybody to go check that out over here on the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube page. But I was sitting there and I'm thinking through this, and we were talking about all these comments. You and I don't know anything. We're just going to say that right now. We're not in the room. So everybody at home, to your point, Q, right, is going to be in the same boat. We can just sit here and we can hypothesize based on what we know. And Scott from Iowa knows here. I do wear sunglasses at night. It's very regular. This is a very regular occurrence for those that listen to Cubs on Tap as well. Any hoodle. We're just doing our best guesstimation based on play design, based on the situation, based on how the defense is lining up. So this is just us using our knowledge to say what we think. This is what I think happens, Q, and this is kind of how I read it. You watch it because it's man on the strong side. So strong side, for anybody that's confused at home, your two tight end side. Mercedes Lewis and Mr. Cole Kmet. Long snapper Cole Kmet, sorry. They and the receiver, which is Roma Dunze, man. Really simple. Just the guy that's over top of you. It's the Pryor right double team to the backside backer or the stack linebacker in the middle that makes me think that that's the way the play is drawn up, which if that's the case, it should just simply be down on the backside. Everybody's accounted for. Show run action because it forces the safety to stay in. The safety can't bail out. He has to respect the run. And then it's just a one-on-one ball with Keenan Allen, and it's the quarterback and Keenan playing catch with a dude in the middle, right? We all did that with our friends. We would abuse the shortest friend in the group. He'd play corner every single play, and you just try to boss him in the back of the end zone. We've all done that in our life. That's exactly what that was setting up to be. So that's why I think it's just maybe Caleb made a check at the line and Tev didn't hear it. Maybe
that's also what crossed my mind with it.
Because I'm sure this play, again, when they come out in the huddle, we talked about it a little bit on Sunday show. When they come out in the huddle, there's always a way to flip it to the other side if you don't get the look you want. Every team has two versions of the play. Like in college, we called them different plays. But it was the only time we could call it one way or the other is if we have like had a balanced front. When it's unbalanced, you're working rules. And then sometimes you have to change the rules to simply go the other way. I think that's what they would have done here had the safety come over on the other side for some reason, or had they been stacked over a little bit. They lined up this way, which makes sense. They're lining up to the strength of the field, and then they're playing guys backside to help account for the pass, because more often than not, you're going to run the fade to the back of the end zone from the near hash. It's never going to be from the other hash. So it's a hash play. Hey, if you're on the right hash, we're thrown to the right pylon. They're going to run up this way. You want it to look like a back or a front side or a backside run of the formation, and give that action for the one-on-one.
Right.
Maybe there's a check at the line that Tev just doesn't hear, but that's what it looks like for me.
Well, and I can't help but think, as we're going to get into this, you're going to see Tev is playing like a maniac right now. Yeah. Like he's just throwing his hat into bodies and saying, "I'm going to hurt you." And between that and the way the Bears run scheme is kind of moving right now is very much towards, we're big and we're going to hurt you. So this isn't a good excuse for it, but I almost wonder if stuff kind of gets lost in translation when guys are just seeing red like that.
100%. And it was also loud from everything I have seen on social media, have heard from firsthand experiences. Like, it was a Bears home game, period. It was blue and orange everywhere. And the Chicago Bears are apparently London's new team. The Jaguars, who? No, they want the Chicago Bears. Maybe he just didn't hear a check at the line for a direction, or maybe he misheard the play. I mean, the plays are super crazy, but to your point, right? Maybe he's fired up. I haven't looked, but this is a question I have. What was the play before? Like, did he go really late to the whistle with a guy and maybe he's fired up and, like you said, he's kind of seeing red?
That's a good point. I think
and then just doesn't hear it properly.
They ran duo twice within like the 5 plays before that. I'm not sure if they were right before. Actually, I think right before that one might have been a duo play where they were just getting into guys' faces. And just you're right. That's a great point. Something a little extracurricular might have happened there. And then maybe he's not. Again, that's not a good excuse.
No,
we're just trying to explain it.
Right, exactly. Not a good excuse at all. You got to hear the play. You got to hear the check. I'll be honest with you. I've had that happen in games, to me personally, in a game. Like, we were on like the 2-yard line when I was in college, and I came in off the bench. I did not start, people, remind you. I will happily own that I did not start. I was small. But came in off the bench, and I played left tackle. And we ran pretty much like a counter play. And I had the backside backer, always. Well, what happened, I had the play side backer. I saw the backside backer walk over in front of me. And because I was kind of seeing red, because we're going to score, we're trying to come back in this game, I bucket stepped this guy and I go up to that backer. Well, the guy I bucket stepped was the front side linebacker. He just walked up. And when you're kind of seeing red, it happens, especially on the goal line, because all the responsibilities get skewed inside the 5-yard line. Maybe that's what happened too. Again, we don't know. We're just hypothetical, educated guesses here, but nonetheless, inexcusable. It's just, that's a mistake. He's going to get told that in film review this week. It just so happened to work out, and it was one of the prettiest touchdowns of the day. So
kudos to Caleb, man. Another weird thing there, Caleb threw that ball like he expected it. That's either outstanding improv on his part or another part of the puzzle that's like, well, I don't know,
Yeah, it might. I think it's one of those plays because there's no time to play action swift.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take it right away.
Yeah.
I think in that situation, they're just trying to show run to maybe get that safety to take or step the wrong way so he can't recover and get back. If Caleb really floats it up, there's no time to get back and try and make a play on it.
Actually, I think you're onto something with that. We know practice is pretty limited for these guys.
Yeah.
We know that sometimes there are play calls where it's just, you guys are just running duo. Just run duo. Yeah. That's the block assignment, right? That might be what all they really are told about the play. Just run duo up front. And that's maybe a check out, maybe something's a little personal moment where he says, "Oh, I got a free hit on this dude." And he's just been he's been talking all game. And I mean, he smashes this dude.
Yeah, I mean, he gets all over him before Shelton can even breathe. Yeah. Again, it works out. So you can sit here and we can laugh about it a little bit and just wonder what the hell happened. But yeah, man, it's crazy. It gets nuts in the trenches. And like you said, Tev was playing like a man possessed. I think he's playing like a healthy version of himself. And I think he also realizes that he probably hasn't had his best season. So for him, it's like, I need to just go out there and show people that I'm a physical freak. So somebody will pay me this offseason, whether it's there or elsewhere. So, I think that's ultimately what could have happened too.
Yeah, well, and I think on that point, I think his agent was in his ear of, you got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. Yeah. And then he played the first 3 or 4 games as if he was protecting himself. And he looked like he didn't look like himself until he had that rib injury. Once he got that rib injury, something went off in his head of I just need to play. I'm going to get hurt one way. If I play my game or if I don't play my game, if I get hurt, I get hurt. But if I'm going down playing my game. And ever since then, he has played his game. It's been night and day.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Again, the wires are different in guys' heads in a contract year. You're playing for a job, man.
Yeah. Now, this next one, we're watching both the tackles. We're watching Braxton on this side. We're watching Wright over here. Sorry, my cursor was on the wrong screen. And then we're watching Matt Pryor as well. So we'll go through it a few times. You don't have to watch them all at once. But this one was just guys got beat in varying degrees. I'm actually going to start with Wright at left guard here. So let me mark him for anyone who might, or I'm sorry, not Wright, Pryor. I'm starting out with Matt Pryor here because he's the one that was the most noticeable to me, because this is what I've been kind of hoping I wouldn't see, but knew I would eventually, was little hand fighting, quick guy, just flies into the gap there and right by him, because he's, like we've said many times, he's just slower. He has a dominant punch and power trait, but that comes with the downside of he's just not fast. He really struggles with the quick hand fighters, the guys who are a bit more agile in there. And Armstead is able to get right by him here, fly through the gap. His feet are just concrete at that point,
I think it's also worth mentioning that Eric Armstead is an incredible football player. So, this is also him going against a really good D tackle.
Look at that highlights. This hop is.
Oh yeah,
that distance that he goes is 5 yards.
Yeah, it's just to more so showcase the fact that there are things he is very limited on from a trait standpoint. But I think in these situations, I respect it, but I feel like if you have Roshan coming up the middle like that, you can get a little aggressive. And again, this is just me hypothesizing if I'm trying to mentally diagnose this. Maybe there's a chance, if I'm Matt Pryor, that I say, hey, I'm not the fastest guy when I give ground to guys. Maybe I'm just going for him and using that big two-hand punch to knock him off right off the bat. And if he starts to loop around me inside, maybe Roshan just clips him a little bit and I can recover and keep a clean pocket. It's hard when you give those type of guys space. And I think that's, again, for a guy like Pryor, who is not the quickest to recover if he doesn't punch, maybe sometimes you just got to highlight your trait and try to play the game knowing you have a guy like Roshan coming up the middle. Again, he's not coming through to make a full block, but even if he just clips his shoulder, that half a second might be enough for you to recover. And if not, get him clean and cover him up. You can at least shove him into the shit on the other side of the pocket, maybe clear some space.
Well, like I said, at this point, we're at 2.6 seconds. I mean, he's free running a Caleb at this point. So, but you still gave him 2.5, which isn't ideal, but he did tie him up a little bit of time. And I just wanted to point out, at the very least, in his recovery, his hands are in the right place.
Yes. Oh yeah. On the hip. Absolutely. Absolutely love the hands at the end. That is one thing I do appreciate.
You see, I mean,
The
look at how much more distance he creates there with that hip push.
I'm telling you, push somebody up top of their shoulders when you're bored one day with your buddies, and then push them in the hip and watch the difference. Your hips are connected to everything. That's the easiest way to move somebody. That's good recovery by Pryor. Just knowing, hey, use that deadly punch, really get him on the hip, and you at least know that you have the guy back there who's not panicking when he sees guys in his face. He's like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me shimmy over really quick. And then he'll recover.
We got a good question in here from Lucas asking what the ideal amount of time for an offensive lineman to give a QB to throw is. And I'll go first and I'll let you touch on it more, Ron. It depends. What's the play call? You know, how deep is the drop? Is there play action? Is it a bootleg? Like, that's all going to adjust it. Like, a bootleg, your offensive line's probably going the other way, and the defenders are going the other way. So it's kind of like, you know, you might have up to 5 seconds on some of those, but it's a lot easier to generate as long as it's an effective bootleg, effective scheme to do it. It's been set up the right way. On pure play action, I tend to think somewhere around 4 makes sense. But on a 3-step drop, straight drop back, you might be as low as 2. You know, you might be 1.5 to 2, especially with Caleb on some of these. There are times where he has the ball out under 2 seconds. So it just depends on what the play is. 7-step deep drop, you need 3.5 seconds, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good benchmarks. And I think that I suppose the answer is enough. Yeah, it kind of is. I guess if I was going to give an average number, I would say like 3 1/3.
Yeah,
to me,
I think that's
maybe the general number.
Like, Tom Brady always said, like 2.75 was what he aimed for, but that's Tom Brady. It's a little different when you're talking about a guy with 20 years experience who has never been able to play outside of pocket in his life, at least not naturally outside of bootleg plays. Like that makes more sense there. A guy like Drew Brees, probably the same way. But someone like Caleb, you're probably creeping up to the average time to throw of like 2.8, 2.9 when stuff is ideal.
Yeah, that's why I think we'll call it 3 1/3. That's the overall. But you're right, Q. Like, you are 1,000% correct in everything you just said. It does depend on the play, and that's a piece of the game plan. Like, I think that's something that people don't realize. You know, we have. At least we did when I was in college. Every team does this, where you have full offense meetings, where it's every offensive player and like the OC and a couple position coaches. And they highlight the big points of the game, just so that the general, nature, like if there's a really big block that happens or doesn't happen, that'll get called out in a full offense meeting. But they'll go deeper in detail about it in like the individual position meetings. I can promise you right now, there's times where the OC will sit there with the whole offense and they'll be like, all right, Caleb, you're waiting for this guy over here his route to develop because that's your first read. But if we get it, it's going to hit, but then you do have a second, third that you could come back to if that just doesn't look like it's there or you need to get the ball out. Hey, line, ideally, let's get X number. Know that in the back of your head if you hear this call that, hey, maybe we just got to keep our guy a little longer, really try to fight through it and not just not just try to stay out of a holding position. There is such thing when you give your lineman a benchmark too. Like, that helps sometimes because they know what kind of block maybe they can do or can't do. There's a lot of hand and technique. Again, further, I think, showing the complexity and kind of the beauty of football is there's so much you don't think about until it gets broken down to a very granular level. I totally agree with everything you had to say, Q. But for sake of the general number, I would say 3 1/3.
Jay Cutler had a famous line back when he was quarterback of like, calling 7-step drops over and over is, it's killing the linemen, like, because they don't get breaks. A 3-step drop is also, it's a breather for the lineman in some aspects of like, okay, I only need to do this much on this one. I might have 5 more 7-step drops in the next quarter, but this one I only need 3. I just need a quick punch and we're clear. And so sometimes on those 3-step drops when the ball gets held too long, that's where it can really get you in trouble because the lineman just wasn't expecting to have to block that long and might have needed that breather. There's a balance there.
The absolute greatest thing you can hear as an offensive lineman on a long drive is your quarterback call to play where like the lineman's job is just to cut guys at the line. So all you got to do is give a half-assed belly roll because the ball's immediately out. That's the best break play in football for an offensive lineman, man. Like that's a good point. Jay Cutler nailed it. Like that's also something too you got to remember. The longer you block, the more tired you are. It's harder to play defense in basketball for 5 seconds than it is for 2.5. It's the same way with football. Same way with an offensive lineman.
Next one, we're looking at Darnell Wright, and I believe that's Trayvon Walker there.
Yeah, it is.
Trayvon Walker. Is it Trayvon Walker?
Trayvon, yeah.
Okay. It didn't sound right in my head. So Walker's length gave Wright some issues in this game. This one was not necessarily the length. Like a lot of times you'd see Wright give that right hand in and use it, one arm's longer than two, and use it to kind of steer him around. This one, it doesn't look like he got that hand kind of in place, and Walker starts cutting inside. He probably overset outside, anticipating an outside move, and he got bit for it. That overset, the hand placement, hands were late. Just Wright makes a habit of winning ugly, but this wasn't one that he won ugly.
Yeah, and I will say too, again, I know there was a lot of people on social media and different things like that were like, this Jags D line's not that good. I'm like, but they're not that bad. Like Trayvon Walker and Hines Allen, yeah,
talented,
very like those big three, and then even Roy Robertson Harris, who mind you they traded, former Chicago Bear, just got traded to Seattle. Of course, he's in London too, and he gets traded to Seattle of all places. But when you put that as a 4-man unit to pass rush on a play, that's a lot of guys like that can really play. And again, there's a reason Walker was the first overall draft pick. I know people don't talk about it. It's like the least talked about first overall pick in football, it feels like. But there's a reason he went number 1. He is an elite pass rusher. He might have lulled right into position where he just keeps coming out wide and tries to get him to overset him just a hair, and then he just cuts back inside knowing he can use his speed. I think that's what he's trying to do and set him up there.
Yeah.
And he just gets him.
To Luke's question, I think Wright's feet are fine here. Like as far as width and keeping a strong base, I think he does that throughout most of the rep, maybe a little close at the step there, but like it was before contact. When he's at contact, he's got a nice strong base. He's just a little overset outside.
And maybe because true beautiful O-line play is so rare in the NFL because a lot of these guys are really big and they got away with not being good technicians. The guys that are good technicians are fun to watch. I personally think a lot of the guys on the Bears have horrible technique from like a overly technical perspective. And I like that because that was the only thing I did well as an offensive lineman. But I think there you could say he maybe got a little bit too under himself because when he tries to really settle down, he doesn't have that wide base to accept the bull rush. And that's why he's able to kind of get pushed back and kind of beaten to that inside shoulder on this play. So I'll be overly critical and I'll agree with Lucas here. But again, yeah, I agree. I think it's not a bad rep by any stretch of imagination, but you almost wish he was a little more aggressive.
Well,
because Walker wants to lull him into that.
I think this rep comes back to a lot of what you've been saying for like the 2 weeks that we've been doing this now. Why do they get so vertical? Why do they get their shoulders turned so much? Because if he's more flat at the line of scrimmage, this doesn't happen.
Yeah, and even if he tries to cut across your face, if you cut a guy's angle down, he's got less real estate to work with. So he can come back inside on you, but you have a better angle to get to either his hip or try to cover him up than being way outside. Again, it's like trying to guard somebody in basketball unless you're in tight. Everything's easier in tight. And that just to me, that feels like, and maybe that's what Morgan's teaching them and saying like, get depth on these speed guys. And I get that because they fast. Like sometimes you have to get depth, but these guys get depth and they just open their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even try to somewhat keep square. It's just 1, 2, holy crap, turn and run.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. So I don't know, man. But yeah, that's something I notice as well that they both do on this play as we get here to Braxton Jones.
Yeah, and then so this last one, Braxton Jones going up against Josh Hines Allen. And this one just gets bull rush back. I mean, it's not anything that we haven't seen from Braxton. Let's see where his hands hit. In this game, he did do a better job of getting hands earlier in the rep. Like that is like his hands are on the shoulders before Hines Allen's are. It's still that hug block.
I hate that so much.
It's what they're teaching these guys. It has to be.
Oh,
but
I hate it.
The fact that he matched the timing, I do like, because it does take away a good amount of his power there and gives it just a little more time. He did a better job of it in other reps in this game where it ate up more power, but it's still better than what we had seen where the hands are in the chest here, and usually right around here is where he's clamping.
Yeah. No,
which
I
just
agree.
eats no power.
Yeah. He starts to get, and then he gets that kind of the big right arm to kind of keep him to the outside. I like that. I really do overall. Again, I just the shoulder thing, the shoulder and the clamp thing is killing me, but
yeah,
a better rep certainly from Braxton. And can we just quickly highlight? I know this is O-line film room, but like the amount of like just cool that Caleb Williams has on this play, like in the pocket. Like I know he still gets got, but like spin and just try to be like, oh crap,
Yeah,
he's so good in the pocket. It's just appreciation of a good quarterback. Sorry, I'm still reeling from Sunday's show here that we did.
All right, so this one we are watching Tev and Braxton over here. We'll see exactly what it is. I threw this together earlier today, so I don't remember exact. Oh, I think I know what this one is.
That's even more fun than you. That we're both surprised.
So we're starting with Tev here. We're starting with Tev. And what are your early talk through your thoughts on this round as it's playing?
I like Braxton covering up Hines Allen. I know we're talking Tev, sorry, but that's the first thing I noticed. I think
what Brax does has a domino effect to Brax, so that's why I'm focusing on him first.
Yeah, I think with Teven, the one thing I don't particularly love is he doesn't even try to cover Roy Robertson Harris.
What, to shuffle his base over?
Yeah, doesn't even
that's what
bother.
I was thinking too.
He just comes up and he's like two-hand reaching. And I don't know if that's what again, like you said, if that's what they're being taught, to keep everything to the outside and let your quarterback step up the middle, like as the design, right? But he just lets him. He says, "Yeah, come on in," and then he's just trying to ride him with the hands. Which, again, if he even gets over a little bit, he could still keep him to that outside and do just a fine job. But just jumping up and punching like that, he's immediately lost. Immediately lost.
Yeah, and a part of me does wonder a little bit if maybe that was taught the last 2 years with Fields. Like, if you can get these guys upfield, do it, because then Fields has a clear path to just run right up the middle. But with Caleb's a little different. You see Roy Robb ends up tripping Braxton Jones.
Whoa.
And it just gives Josh Hines Allen right into the quarterback.
Yeah. It would have been it almost would have been better had Hines Allen been a little more outside of Braxton, so that way he tripped too, and they all just kind of tripped together.
We see the hands that we were used to seeing from Brax.
Yeah.
Hines Allen has his hands in on him. Now he clamps. It's just he's too late. Yeah.
I mean, he does a nice job covering him up, but I agree. He's just too late with the hands. Does a great job covering him up, though. I think that's.
But ultimately, this was a bad Tev rep, not a bad Braxton rep. It was. I think I might have given Braxton poor on this, but like that was just because of the compromised position that he got in.
Yeah.
Of Josh Hines Allen's hands getting in him, and just like Josh Hines Allen looks like he has complete control at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Braxton has an opportunity at all to try and sink his base, because he does start getting ridden back. And in that situation, you're taught on the bull rush, you just sink. Mm-hmm. You just sink all your weight into your butt and lean into the guy, essentially, and just bench press him. I wonder if he could even get there because he's so high.
Well, and I wonder, like, as you're saying that, that's making me wonder, like, so when I'm thinking of anchor, there's only a handful of guys who can really sink like that, right? It's a pretty rare trait to find a guy who can, like, fully like Darnell Wright was pretty close to being one of those guys when he was coming out of college. But for the most part, you see guys who can use uber athleticism to say, okay, I'm going to bench press you a little. I'm going to shoot my legs back, and then I'm going to drive down and up. Like, that's usually what we end up seeing. And that's the way that Braxton can anchor on occasion. But, like, usually it's the sink down just doesn't work for in the NFL. Like, these guys are too big, too fast, too strong.
Yeah, I think the only guy that I've ever really seen who's really good at the sink is like Trent Williams. Let's be real.
Even Trent, it's all hand placement though, man.
Yes.
Because like his anchor, I always bring up when I'm talking about how Braxton get better, I always bring up Trent because I feel like Trent's anchor isn't that extremely impressive. It's just like, holy shit, this guy just keeps you from getting your hands into him.
Yeah. Well, that's the key, right? I mean, you're taught it's always hand fighting.
Yeah.
I used to love hand fighting. Hand fighting was one of the few things I
this
actually
was the
enjoyed
infamous
practicing.
This was the infamous Matt Pryor head ball
into Matt Pryor's face mask,
which it's memeable, but like I don't even think it's nothing to me. You know, Matt Pryor went to go try to help.
When you were watching that play live, I must ask you, did you like panic a little bit? Were you like, oh shit, here we go again?
I actually missed that play because I was on the can.
Oh, you missed the good play to miss, I guess.
I mean, you gotta go. Like it was like
I respect it.
9:30 a.m. Like
it was early. It was early.
First quarter rather than the late of the game.
Can confirm I ran on about 4 hours of sleep before this game. And for reference, for people that are wondering, I moved into my house, had some family over, friends over.
We're watching this whole left side here. Cole Kmet might even be included. I just don't recall. But this is a run play over to the left, and it's just I'm not quite sure what on earth happened here. To me, it just looks like they all thought they were going to be able to get their guy with just hands, and they couldn't.
Yeah, I don't understand why nobody's moving.
Yeah, they're just shooting their hands out. It's weird.
It again, I think this is also a line that's not designed to run any kind of like zone steps. And it shows. These guys
but Braxton should be able to. Like Tev,
you would think
is serviceable usually, but those are wide alignments too. Like you're talking a wide 9, you're talking about Tev reaching a 5 tech. Like,
okay,
so that's true.
I got a big brain proposition for you, Q. I'm going to put a little bit of a tinfoil hat on with this one. Do you think maybe because the playing surface it's turf, like true turf, that these guys are like, ooh, I got to be a little more careful with my steps. Otherwise, I get overextended. Something not so great might happen. Do you think that's a possibility? Because it feels like nobody's moving their legs like they usually do if they're at like Soldier Field where it's grass.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't think so, but it's the Players Association is pretty against turf. So like it might be in these guys' heads a little. I mean,
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Subconscious, I think, if it's there.
Maybe.
But I just wanted to show this one because it was bizarre. It
is bizarre.
Odd.
I agree. I again just wanted to play devil's advocate here, but I agree with you.
If anything, I would almost think that based on tape, they were expecting Roy Robb, the 5 tech over Brax, to be cutting inside. Like they expected this look to cut downhill, not uphill, and it just
I could see that.
Them.
I could see that. I could see that actually, because now that you look at the front, it makes me almost wonder if the thought here was, hey, if you see, because Jacksonville runs a 34.
Going opposite, like
yeah, and Jacksonville runs a 34. So when the nose is shaded like that, I bet you on film that means they're running a run stunt. So that's maybe what they thought was coming, and it just didn't happen. I think that's completely a possibility too. Again, sometimes you'll see a look and you think, okay, game. maybe you think you have to stay inside more, and then it never comes, and then you're like, oh shit, I gotta get that out there.
Your margin for error is pretty thin.
Yeah.
All right, next one here. Let's see. So this one I wanted to show because I had someone in the comments on Twitter today ask whether Wright was playing injured had an injury to his left arm, because he always notices him blocking with only his right arm. And so I wanted to show an example of that. And it's something that I find very impressive about Wright's play is there's a guy on Twitter named Jim Mouse McNally. He was an O-line coach for the Bengals, for the Bills. Like, he spent like 20 years in the NFL. And now he's like a 80-year-old man who just posts tweets of him doing pull-ups and giving O-line advice. That's all he does.
It's incredible.
It really is. One of the best followers on Twitter if you like O-line play. But one that he had the other day, and I sang it to Rom. He goes and does like 10 pull-ups. He comes back to the camera and goes, one arm's longer than two. And then cuts the camera. And just that's awesome. What this is. And it's a skill for Darnell Wright to be able to time up this one arm punch, get it right in the chest, and maximize his length out against a guy who has 36-inch long arms, significantly more length than Wright does. Like that ability to play with the one arm is the reason why he's able to win that length advantage there, because Wright's very average length. He's like 33 1/3 or something like that. Trayvon Walker's 36-inch long arms. It takes a little something, and that ability to be able to overextend one arm is what allows him to win the rep.
Yeah. Incredibly put. I think that's one of the most impressive things about Wright, Hugh, is just like he kind of plays offensive line unorthodox.
He does.
And it's fun.
He's a bare knuckle boxer, man. Like he's different. He's a change up to a lot of edge rushers, and like I love it.
I love it too. Like I always root for the guy that's different. Again, you've seen me sit on here wearing friggin' Bucky's tie-dye tank tops, for God's sake. I like being the different one. It's fun. That's why I kind of like how he plays offensive line, because like you said, like he's not like he doesn't have the greatest of talent, but he's just like, he comes at you ways you don't expect. And you're just like, why are you getting to me? Maybe that's just him also knowing like, hey, I know I can win here with this guy because he's not really good at X. Maybe that's just him being a really good technician and kind of just
we know from his college days, he was very good about learning his opponent's weaknesses and strengths and how to counter their strengths
and beating that up. That's one of the things that good offensive lineman that can do that, man.
I'm really excited to see his, like this year. I am giving him a bit of a pass because the back injury he's playing through, but next year I'm really hoping to see some significant growth in his hand fighting, because his hand fighting at Tennessee was some of the best I've seen at the college level. And I have to think that's in there to progress somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. And again, the fact that he also knows how to play like this without like totally screwing up his back or anything is also incredibly impressive. Yeah. Like that's just also knowing what you can physically do. And he's like, okay, how do I physically beat this guy with what I can actually do right now? You come at a guy a different way because you're trying to keep yourself a little bit healthy while still being effective.
All right, this one I wanted to highlight Braxton's pull into space. Like I said, we always want to offset the bad with the good, because these guys do good stuff every single Sunday, and that matters. Like not that each of these guys does bring a skill that not everyone can do. Oh wait, sorry, we're actually starting with the bad pull.
This is the bad one.
We're starting with the bad pull. I thought we were going out left. This one I forgot about. This one we're going in right. Ron, how do you generate better power than that?
You have better footwork than that.
Yeah,
I think that's part of it. He does not stay low at all on this, and I don't love the technique. I mean, I will tell you this though.
Throwing the shoulder here, unless you're Darnell Wright, because Darnell Wright can move a car with his shoulder. But like,
agreed. I think though, at least I give Braxton credit because he's technically doing it correct, like by technique standards. It's always pull with hit with the shoulder in the direction you pull. So if you're pulling right, pull right, hit right. Pull left, hit left. So he does that correctly.
I mean, hitting him with that outside shoulder would theoretically spray him out this way, not back into the run lane, right?
Right. And I think, too, in this situation, maybe Braxton underestimated Eric Armstead a little bit. I feel like everybody estimated, like the Chicago Bears fan base to me underestimated Eric Armstead. Like the only reason he's not in San Francisco anymore is because they couldn't pay him. Because he's really good. It's like, I don't know, man, but he maybe just underestimates him here and thinks he can throw his body into him, and Eric Armstead stands his ground, again, compared to it like a Darnell Wright, if he was to throw his shoulder in this situation.
Yeah, Darnell Wright can plow just about anything open with his shoulder, his right shoulder. I think he's shown that the last few weeks pretty significantly.
Oh, 100%.
He did whiff on this play, but
sometimes you're gonna get olayed. It happens to the best of us, especially when you're just trying to put your shoulder to a guy and move him. Like if they can get their hands on you and get around you, you're gonna get olayed every once in a while.
So this one, I wanted to ask you about it, Ron, because I actually think the wider view is going to be better here because we want to see the linebackers, because this O-line gets some wild vertical movement all game, really. Like this O-line can really do that, but no reach blocks. And it just leaves these two, what is that, safety and linebacker, I think it was. Yeah, 33 is linebacker, 5 is a safety, just into fill pretty easily. Is this a spot where you say DeAndre Swift needs to make a guy miss, or does one of those guys need to be blocked up?
I think at least one of them needs to be blocked up. And again, I would love to be a fly in the room, because I wonder if on certain plays like this, maybe they're just teaching these guys. They're saying, look, guys, we know you're not the greatest at the reach. Like, you know what this feels like to me?
I mean, they wash out the mic.
They do.
Like the mic just gets sucked up into all that because they're just moving people. But like,
you know what, as crazy as this sounds, Q, this feels like the wedge at 2 that I ran as a freshman in high school, where if you just have a bullying offensive line, which we did that year, we just had a lot of big dudes that happened to be freshmen in high school. We would run wedge at 2, which is exactly what it sounds like, because we played the Georgia Tech option offense of old, and it was just fullback, 3-point guy. Yeah, you get the handoff. You're either going to the 2-hole or you're the 3-hole. You're either running up the left guard or right guard's butt. You pick. That's what this feels like. It really does. I want to know if they're teaching these guys that they're just saying, hey, we trust DeAndre's playmaking ability. If you guys can get to at least one linebacker, hopefully 2, he can bounce it out. I bet you this time it's just Braxton and Wright see red, and they just try to move them, and they don't try to get to one of these other guys. Maybe that's just what they're telling them. Just go get the most amount of yards you humanly can. But unfortunately, you let DeAndre Swift get just absolutely teed off on.
Especially, I do think there's some merit to that, especially in the first quarter, when you're saying, let's just beat the living piss out of them and see if they can stay standing.
Let's just beat them up and see if their
tackles can stay standing, or if Coleman Shelton can block them one-on-one by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, like, are you so gassed because you've just been physically abused that you are doing nothing to improve your defense? That's what that feels like.
Watch Pryor and Wright just lift this guy off the ground. Just be like, oh, you are not going to stay right there. Like,
I've had that happen to me once in my life, Q. It's the most terrifying thing on the football field. It's just when you levitate and you're just, like, you try to jump
right there. Like,
you're
watch.
It's not good.
Watch his right foot right there just come off the ground, and then like a little bit of flail in his body of like,
It's like, oh shit. Yeah.
And I want to point out this comment from Scott saying, if you didn't watch the game, you'd think the Bears lost by 30 and they won by 19. I mean, I think that's a good way to describe O-line play. Can always get better, can always be worse. It's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems. There's just shades of gray, a million shades of gray with an O-line play.
I think you've just conquered the newest book franchise, Q, that we're going to write. It's going to be called A Million Shades of Gray. And it's going to be for the O-line sickos that just want to read about O-line play and fantasize about it, just like 50 Shades of Gray. It's A Million Shades of Gray.
It's going places. So here's the good Braxton one in space. Now we're showing a good like, man, look at that burst that he gets off the line here. Like, first of all, and he is moving.
He's so
finds his
fun
target,
to
clears it out. Like, This is one of the things that Braxton really does well, and something that like you pick up 10 easy yards here largely because of Braxton.
If I was Shane Waldron, just personally because of what Braxton can do in space, I would run the freaking old school, like 2 tight ends to one side tackle pull with Braxton to the outside like that from like the right hash. Because he's just going to get out there. And like you said, it's a free cheese if you get 2 good blocks from your tight ends. This case, they use 2 receivers. Because again, you got to be deceptive.
Which,
like they tell you in the NFL, you got to block in the NFL.
Shout out to Moore and Allen. They hit these blocks the first few games of the year. They weren't hitting these blocks, and it was kind of destroying the run game in some ways.
Yeah.
Like before the O lineman even had a chance to mess something up, it was like, okay, this play's dead.
Yeah, Keenan.
Them hitting
Keenan
those blocks
DJ,
is really important.
Keenan and DJ just know on that play. If we even get a piece of these guys for a second and a half, like DeAndre's got at least 10 yards on this play.
Right.
I bet you that's what they're thinking.
You watch DJ. DJ doesn't sustain that block. Like right here, but he's already taken the guy out of his run fit that he's supposed to be in, messed it up, and now his angle has to go through Braxton blocking his teammate.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah, and he's not getting there. He knows he's not getting there. So, yeah, I mean, you got to, again, we can be O-line film room and still appreciate great blocking from wide receivers. That was just as much good job Braxton as it was, hey, Keenan and DJ. Remember early in the season, they were saying DJ was checked out and like Keenan was just an old hurt vet and they're not going to be on the field on rundowns. And we even said Keenan wouldn't be on the field on rundowns. These two are just coming out and they're like, we care. We're winning ball games, baby. We're going for it. They're coming out and blocking with Braxton Jones on the outside. Just shows they want it too, which is just a good sign for camaraderie of the team right now. You know, if guys are willing to put their body on the line in the blocking game that aren't normally blockers, shit's humming.
And this one was just a nice pass block rep all around. I mean, you had Cole Kmet on the right side giving a chip off the snap. You had DeAndre Swift giving a chip on Josh Allen's hind on the left side too. But even without those, I just liked the entire O-line here. I love Teven just dominating his guy with the snatch trap, getting his hands in there and just taking him down.
I just love the finishing. The finishing technique from Tev is great. Just lay on him.
Yeah. If anything, I think the chip probably helped Braxton. I don't think he needed it. There was a chance that if Shelton didn't get walked back a little bit there, that chip actually hurt Braxton. Because I thought he was in some really nice position. Just want to highlight how a chip is not always helpful. But
no, it's not.
Yeah, like, see, I mean, if Braxton can't recover there and Shelton isn't kind of getting in that space, which I don't want to say that as Shelton messed up. Shelton did an outstanding job on this rep. Like, he is wrestling.
I think everybody until Pryor just kind of like, it's out in no man's land. I think everybody's got a great block here. Pryor's doing the right thing. He's like, I feel you got it, Coleman. Like, I can tell. Like, if he starts coming over, okay, I'll come back and I'll come help you. But
there are some reps where Pryor gives too much help and it shakes a guy free. So, like, I'd rather this than that.
Yeah. No, but overall good rep. I agree. I think the chip helps Kmet from Kmet much more than from Swift.
Definitely.
But Tev creating a pile of shit helps too, because then, you know, pass rusher gets stuck on his heels because they're both sitting on the ground.
Oh, it's man. I just got to run this through watching Shelton once, because that is a valiant effort from Coleman Shelton, man. Like,
attaboy.
It could just be that number 98 or whoever that is not all that imposing. I don't know. I haven't watched much of his tape, but like, Shelton is wrestling for 6-7 straight seconds here of just like fighting for his life and hanging in there. And I it's one of the things, like last year when I was doing this, it'd be like, there'd be reps where I was just like, you go, Lucas Patrick, you do your damn thing. And like, that's how I feel about this rep from Shelton. It's just like, man, I know you get a lot of shit from everybody. I know you might not be good, but
you're an effort player.
Everyone loves Rudy.
Yeah.
Right? It's just you won that rep. You gave max effort. You did everything you humanly could. And you know what? I respect the hell out of that.
Putting in effort especially as a player that is clearly less talented. Like if you give effort, that can spark a team. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
that's a moment where in the old line room, Morgan's sitting there, circles Coleman
like
at this
dog.
point.
It's like my dog with a tug toy, man.
It's like he probably sits there. Morgan puts the weight, watch it all the way till the end, and he'll put the little laser pointer on him, and he goes, "Attaboy, Coleman." Like that's all it is. It's an attaboy moment, but you need that. You need that, and just again, it shows you got a guy that at least wants to compete and is going to be a competitor. You know how Eberflus talks about that the competitive nature in the locker room that keeps these guys hungry and going, and it's part of the culture. That's kind of what that is. And that helps refuel and kind of reinforce that culture too, which again, I know O-line play, we want to be successful at all times. Sometimes you just need that guy to just hang on. It's like he's on a buck and bull. He's just got to hang on for dear life for 7 seconds and hope for the best.
And then this very next play, like these were 2 straight plays. Tev gets him again, gets Roy Robb again with the snatch trap. And again, they're clearing out the space where Caleb's throwing. An awesome job from DeAndre Swift getting in the blitz pickup there.
Another crazy question for you here, Q. Do you think part of the reason that they're told to clear out the middle as much as possible is because of Williams' height?
I think it has something to do with it.
Okay.
I think that there are plays where I'm pretty sure they know where the first read is. Like Matt Pryor knows the first read is over me. I'm 6'8". I got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I got to take that guy with me. Like there are plays that really feel like that.
I agree. It really does. And again, some of that might
this
just
is one of them. This is Matt Pryor saying, we got to get out of here.
When he says,
to some degree, the defender definitely did it, but
he's like, let me move. Sorry. And but again, I also think that's just a good way to teach your linemen that helps a young quarterback develop. Because when you just clear out the field too, he doesn't have to worry about batted balls. He doesn't have to worry about, you be that sniper in the middle of the field that we need you to be. We're just clearing it out for you, baby. You can see everything. The rain has gone, Caleb.
We want to talk different technique from Darnell Wright. I love this. It's not good. Just throws him out of the frame.
It's not good, but it's aggressive. And I like aggressive. I'll take aggressive if you miss it rather than passive if you make the block.
Rides him up like it's not good, but he did his job.
But that's what you're taught, though. Like, again, you're not always going to be perfectly successful, but how do you recover? How do you give something to try and extend the play just a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Football is all about time. The more time you have, the better the play usually turns out, right? Same goes in this situation. He gets him out there, and then he just says, okay, I just need to ride your hip and just ride you around the merry-go-round. He does that perfectly there. I'm not mad about that. That's a block that I'll take from Darnell Wright because I like the aggressive nature, getting out there first and just getting him out of there and then making his track longer to the quarterback.
Yeah. This next one is a bit of a rarity. It's just Matt Pryor getting punched in the mouth.
Ooh.
Eric Armstead, he's got some juice left, folks. Like, Matt Pryor doesn't usually get moved off spots this well, but like Armstead used his lack of speed against him, got into him, was able to get him off balance and chuck him.
I think, Hugh, I know we didn't do the baddest men for both teams in Sunday's show because we had a 3-person panel with Sonny. If you had to give me a baddest man from the Jaguars on defense, I probably would have picked Eric Armstead in this game because he still was not bad. Like, their defensive line was not bad. Caleb also just got rid of the football really quickly, too. Like, that helps. There's nothing better than that. But I'm telling you, dude, I was blown away, really, with just how good he was. And I'm telling you, man, he would have been my baddest man because he still got it. Like you said, he still got the juice. People thought when he was San Francisco let him walk, it's because he's not good anymore. No, it's just because they couldn't fit him in the payroll. They did a great job. Great job.
All right, so I think I got time for one more play in here. So I'm trying to find it. Yeah, here we go. So I just want to point out the drive blocking because I think that's really becoming a big part of what the Bears offense is, like what they want their identity to be. Mm-hmm. So like on this, you just see they're just mauling people. Like, I think Pryor actually kind of whiffs on this one, but it doesn't end up mattering because they're saying, we're heavy. Doug Kramer's in here. We got Darnell Wright just clearing out the lane like Shaq in his prime. And
it's beautiful.
Tev ends up coming in and cleaning up where Pryor missed on the pole. Like, that is Wright, Pryor, and Tev with Doug Kramer behind them. That is a lot of weight to stop.
It's a lot of beef.
Yeah.
And I like it. Honestly, why not go heavy? Why not bring in the beef? I'll tell you what, another example of, I think the bring in the beef is going to become a thing here soon, Q, because the tush push was so big that people are just like, wait, it's not about running quarterback sneak with an offensive line. It's about, well, they're the biggest O-line in the league. It's just bullying people.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, let's bully people by adding a fullback that's also an offensive lineman by chance who moves kind of well. The SXU Cougars do it. They bring in defensive linemen and linebackers to run a wildcat fit with heavy. It's hilarious, but I love it. And this is what this feels like to me. It's just, you see this 1,200 pounds of man running at three of you. Good luck stopping it with, especially when they put Roshan in and you got that power element too, let alone Swift giving an effort and trying to slinky his way through the cracks into the end zone.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't help but wonder how much just beating the crap out of the interior D lineman last year for the Rams helped Coleman Shelton because his tape was better. They had two massive guards flanking him, and they were running a lot of duo, a lot of power concepts. I wonder how much of it was just saying, we're going to fatigue the hell out of these guys so Shelton can look good out here.
Yeah.
And because it's working.
Right. Just bully him down and then let Coleman play his game. And, he knows the offense and he knows what he needs to do here to help Caleb. We just got to let him do it. I dig it. I like what they're doing right now, especially on the goal line. The Bears are fun on the goal line. Give me every game at least 3 goal line plays because they're figuring it out. There's no more sprint option on the inside the 5 here, Q. It's just power football up the middle and grind them down.
All right. Well, I've got to hop, but thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Ron, for coming on, talking through with us, and we hope to see you guys again next week. We're making this a weekly thing every single week. I've just got to hop to another podcast now. Otherwise, I'd love to do this all night, but unfortunately, that's not feasible. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to go check out all our content over at ontapsportsnet.com and have a great evening. Ron, why don't we get out of here the only way we know how?
Bear down, baby.
Bear down.